maybe we just deal with it.
Yeah, it'll be fine. It's a short book. It'll be
It is a short
decently short review, probably.
Hi, and welcome to Mellow the 13th, your monthly horror book club, released on the 13th of every month. I'm Megan, and I enjoy horror books. I am an artist and a writer, and we have here Mel.
Hi, I am Maleficent. I am an artist and a librarian, which means I professionally like books.
We, this month, read What Moves the Dead by T. Kingfisher. I feel we should start off by saying that in every way, shape, and form, this will be a spoiler-filled episode. So if you haven't completed the book, you will get spoiled. So if you want to go read the book first and then come back, feel free.
It's really tiny. It took me an hour and a half.
Yeah, it's not long. I think the audiobook was, about 5 hours, I believe. So read is about 2.5 hours for a regular person.
This is also, it was faster for me because this is the second time I've read it. I recommended this book. I read it 2 years ago, so I had to reread it. But because I'd already read it, I was on fast forward.
I'm trying to work out what I want to say first because I have a lot to say. I don't know if you saw my notes from before.
I did see you scrolling. There are a lot of them.
Mel and I are using Notion. Well, I say Mel and I'm using Notion to track what we're doing and all of my note taking and everything like that. And Mel is doing her own form of note taking,
which is mostly in my brain. But I also did get some of those fun see-through sticky notes, so I can actually put notes in the books.
Well, where's that physical book that you are holding right now?
It's my phone.
Wow, those see-through sticky notes are really coming in handy, aren't they?
I did just say that I was about to say, maybe. I didn't do them this time because I read it on my phone.
Mel did recommend this book. I had read it before. I had not. I definitely heard about it. It came up in a lot of recommendations from TikTok and things like that. What did you think of the book?
I love this book. This is the second T. Kingfisher book that I have read. I think I picked up The Hollow Places in an airport. And I read that on the plane coming back from New Zealand a couple of years ago. And then for my birthday that year, a friend of mine gifted me a month of the audiobook platform that she uses. So this was the first book that I picked because I just typed in T. Kingfisher because I just finished one of her books. And I listened to that and the whole time I was just like, I really enjoyed it.
I also enjoyed the book. I actually, controversially, didn't enjoy it the first time around. I personally have a issue where whenever I get secretly surprised that the story is a retelling, I then have a bad time. It's like my brain just goes, what is going on here?
I understand these. I know these themes. I recognize this. This is derivative.
So I actually went through, I read The Fall of the House of Usher, the book that it is based on. And then I came back to the book and then I reread it. And I actually enjoyed it way more the second time because I was prepared that it was meant to be a retelling.
And I have promised that if I ever recommend a book that's a retelling ever again, I will share that up front.
Well, the good part is now that we will be doing the blurbs for the books, because I notoriously don't read blurbs before I start books. If I had read the first line on here where it mentions Usher, I would have worked out much earlier that this had been a retelling.
The plot is Alex Easton is a soldier from a small country that I did mean to Google if it actually exists. I'm pretty sure it doesn't.
Pretty sure it's fictional.
It's a fictional country in the actual real world.
It's very ingrained because, it's talking about Europe and such
and
everything
America
like that.
and the French.
And Americans, that they are a present and active force as opposed to being something from the past.
And everybody kind of dislikes them.
Is that really that different to real now?
Wow.
She was inspired by Ruritanian Romance, which is a fictional country from the author Anthony Hope that then became Ruravia. I'm assuming that's how it's said. I could only read it, even though I listened to it in an audiobook. I don't remember how they said it. Because they don't mention that nearly as much as they mention Galatia.
Yeah, honestly, I was only thinking of Galatia. Because they're all from Galatia.
Yeah, but
they all grow up together in Galatia. I haven't explained yet that there are characters other than Alex. Alex gets a letter from Madeline and Usher, and she's like, I'm really sick, but my brother thinks I'm dying sick. And Roderick's like, oh, hi. And he's really sickly as well. And he's got a doctor friend there, the American, who is kind of trying to look after Madeline. There's also a woman named Mrs. Potter who is apparently, also according to the author's notes, supposed to be Beatrix Potter's grandmother.
Oh, yeah, I've read that. I
Yeah.
was like, that's
I
so
love that.
interesting.
I love Beatrix Potter when I was a kid. There are hares in this story, much like Beatrix Potter's rabbits, but nothing like them actually.
Maybe that's why there were hares, honestly. Like, rather than any other type of creature.
Maybe. Anyway, there's a lot of mushrooms. I highlighted like the first line of the book because it literally starts with mushrooms. It goes, the mushroom's gills were the deep red colour of severed muscle, the almost violet shade that contrasts so dreadfully with the pale pink of viscera.
Yeah.
And when I first picked this book up, I was like, yeah, I'm going to enjoy this.
I noted that too because I have a little thing here that says flesh mushrooms.
There are other characters, but those are, I would say, the main four.
There is the Batman, Angus,
Yes.
who does make a little bit, pretty much the brawn of the situation,
Yeah.
essentially. Does the hunting and things like that.
I feel like he's kind of still a background character, though, because he doesn't show up until partway through.
Yeah.
And he mostly just shoots a few things
And mentions about the rabbit.
fetches
The
some stuff.
hare, sorry. It's the hare the hare they find at the end that they dissect. Pretty sure it was hair also. It wasn't just a rabbit.
No, there are no rabbits. You're being very the American man who's like, hares? Are they like rabbits? And Alex is like, fucking Americans. One of the things that I really, really do love about this book is they put quite often what Alex is thinking in brackets.
It's actually
Author's way of talking.
very funny that you say that because I didn't like that.
Really?
That's one of the things I don't like about the book.
Oh no, I love hearing a character's like internal monologue.
But I feel like a book already lends itself to being something that is internal.
Yeah.
So therefore it's kind of like you're
Some of
breaking
them.
the fourth wall to kind of tell us what's going on in a way that you could have done in the text.
The like in brackets thoughts, it feels very like fan fiction to me.
Yeah, no, I get
In a
that.
way that like I really, really like that in fan fiction, and so I like it in books.
I have also read a lot of fan fiction, but I guess I can excuse it from a fan fiction sense because it isn't a published work, and maybe that's kind of snarky and
A little bit, yeah.
elitist way of thinking about it.
It's almost fan fiction already.
It technically could be. Yes.
Hmm.
Yeah, I guess you're right. I don't like brackets. I'm not changing my mind.
Okay, so I'm not asking you to change your mind. However, if all of the internal thoughts were just like italicized instead of in brackets, is your problem with the brackets, or is your problem with it breaking to be like, and this is the thing that I'm currently thinking?
Let me find an example just so that I can demonstrate my thought. The rear of the book describes that Alex's pronouns are they and them, but technically in the book, they are Ka and Khan as a like neo-pronouns. So I'm like, do I honor the blurb or what is said in the physical book? Because it is explained that Galatia has a million different pronouns for different people.
I highlighted this as well. 7 sets of pronoun, for example, one which is for inanimate objects and one of which is used only for God. And then it says, it's probably a miracle we don't just have one for mushrooms.
But that was probably also in bracket. They mention here, who's a good fellow then, and does Kitty want a treat? Look, if you don't make a fool of yourself over animals, at least in private, you aren't to be trusted. That was one of my father's maxims, and it's never failed me yet. While I think this is a cute thought, I don't need to have been explained that Alex's father liked animals and believed that people that didn't like animals shouldn't be trusted, because agreed. But just explaining that you like animals is not something that deserves an extra breakup of brackets. Like, there are a few times in this book where it kind of meanders a little. And that, I think, was the part that I didn't enjoy in the first part of, like, when I read it the first time. And this is purely being, like, very picky, right? Like, I did overall enjoy the book a lot. But I did feel that because it's so short, it filled it up in spaces that I didn't feel that it needed to. Like, if you were to put in this book and you're like, okay, out of this tiny book, how much of this actually has a lot of action happening? That is the action. That is the beginning. And a lot of it is used to explain Galatia. It's used to explain things through brackets and extra information. a lot of that is like character building, which is fun and interesting and whatnot. But it is very interesting to see that in such a short book already, as though it needs to expand on those thoughts.
I think it would be interesting as well, because you're right, they did do a lot of character building in this book, and there are 2 more in this series, which I don't actually think they were intended to be 2 more in the series when I read the first one.
And I do hope that they do expand on the world and universe of Galatia, Moravia, that kind of thing, because I did think all of that stuff was interesting, because the next book is going to Miss Potter's home and finding that it is empty.
I didn't know that.
I know, because I read through the blurb on the next one and I was like, that actually looks really cute. I
also don't read blurbs.
The only reason I read the blurb in this case is because it is at the end of the book. Alex Easton travels to Galatia as a favour to their friend, Britain's foremost mycologist, Miss Potter. They find their home empty, the caretaker dead, and the grounds blanketed by an uncanny silence. The locals won't talk about what happened to the caretaker. None of them will set foot on the grounds.
We're going to get into the spoily bits of it, because I'm just like, Madeline is sick and Roderick is sick and things aren't going well.
I mean, also, yeah, it's quite funny that I went, hey, how did the book go? And then we get distracted halfway through. So Roderick and Madeline are sick. Oh my God, that sucks.
And their doctor friend is like, do I know what's going on?
Yeah, Denton is the American also who gets a lot of the sass throughout the book.
And like, understandably, he doesn't know what's going on, because Roderick actually served under Alex in their army in a different war than Denton was in, but he's an American army doctor, and he very clearly multiple times is just like, yeah, I'm a doctor, but I'm like a battlefield doctor? I don't know what...
When Alex brings up that people always mention that it's hard being in war and what must that have been like, and basically asks Denton what he thought of war, and he was like, I wasn't ready for it. Alex spends all of this time kind of being like, fuck Americans, and then somehow manages to meet a decent American.
We only meet one American in this book.
Yeah.
And everybody actually kind of loves him, but the commentary is just like, nobody likes Americans. Alex asks Miss Potter, hey, are there mushrooms that grow underwater? And she's like, no, mushrooms don't go underwater. There was an American that said that they saw mushrooms growing underwater, but like an American reported that, and so we can't trust it. I will wait to believe in underwater mushrooms until, someone's brain just covers it, and it's just like, oh my God, this is like chapter 1.
Madeline and Roderick are sick. Events eventually transpire where Madeline dies, and Alex eventually determines that her neck had been snapped. Like, it's on a weird angle, and it appears that Madeline has been murdered, which I thought was really fun when... That sounds weird out of context. I thought it was really fun that we go from Alex investigating Madeline's corpse in the crypt, and then we go to breakfast. And Alex is like, we're at breakfast, I gotta work out which of these people murdered someone. And I just think that was really fun to have that split as well. But also, I do think as well, if you had seen that someone had been murdered and it was a very dear friend of yours, would you not run?
I also highlighted this quote. I highlighted like a full 10 quotes in this entire book.
Nice.
But I highlighted, it's very unpleasant to sit down to a meal when you're trying to determine which one of your breakfast companions is a murderer.
Yeah, like that genuinely could have been the start of a book. I thought that was a great opening line.
There are a lot of like perfect sentences in this book.
Yeah, I do really enjoy T. Kingfisher's humour in a lot of like quippy lines and things like that. I've seen a lot of reviews from people now that I've read the book that say that it kind of detracts from the story, whereas I didn't feel that that was the case. I feel that Alex certainly takes the whole situation not entirely seriously, not in the seriously in the terms of the gravity of it, but that uses wit and humor to kind of diffuse tension.
Yeah.
And I feel that that comes through in the writing as well. So I really enjoyed the humor in it. Whereas, yeah, a lot of people say that they don't enjoy that. And I thought it was cool.
Well, they talk about it as well in the book. Like, this is maybe an inappropriate reaction, but it's gallows humor. Yeah. Like, we're going through it.
So then they work out that Madeline has been murdered, and a number of things happen in between then and there. I believe the second hare introduction happens at that point, where Alex goes to shoot at a hare, and then the hare gets back up and starts being creepy. The hair descriptions were very good.
Yeah.
Hair meaning rabbit, just because, just a
There
hair.
are
is a decent
hair
amount of
descriptions
hair.
of
Yeah.
a hair as well.
And so it starts to bring in the idea of that things that die don't stay dead. I think it was really interesting to see that continue throughout the book, where when they find that Madeline has arisen from the tomb and is no longer there, that's really interesting. Roderick also admits to murdering Madeline and says that he did it because she started talking strangely and he was scared. He didn't mean to, but he did end up killing Madeline.
He also confesses that the reason he was like so almost horrified that Alex had shown up at their door was he was like, I was about to kill my sister and now like our friend is here. What the that's terrible timing.
They realized that the mushrooms are likely involved. That the fungi had been infecting Madeline. There's a point where Miss Potter and Alex head to the crypt in order to take a sample of Madeline's hair, because the revelation about the thin fibers that seemed to be kind of reminiscent of white hair was pretty much all that was left on her head and was kind of shedding from her. And the staff and everything had been cleaning it away. And so they head to the crypt in order to investigate that and look into it. And Alex brings Miss Potter there in order to look for this hair. Madeline's not there, but some of it's left behind. Miss Potter is like, I don't know that I believed you before, but that looks very much like a fungi. Oh no. And then things start escalating from there.
So quickly. It escalates so quickly from there.
Oh, and when Madeline is speaking as one of the, I don't even know how to explain it, like hive mind kind of thing, creepy, especially because when they eventually speak to Madeline, who kind of acts possessed, she also has that terribly creepy line where she's like, I've been dead for a month. And I was like, ugh, yuck, yuck.
So she explains that until Roderick snapped her neck, it was able to be life support for her entire body. But, now that that's not so connected, she's a bit...
I think it's Denton, I'm pretty sure, who pulls Alex and then closes the door. And then Madeline's just behind there going, Alex, please let me out. And then just randomly is like, Easton.
They describe, like, when we're saying that she's a bit possessed and she's got this other voice, they describe it quite a few times as being, like, very childlike, which is, like, a trope in horror that I really like a possessed child. And I think it's a bit creepier in this instance that it's not technically, it's kind of like a child is possessing poor Madeline.
Because they use the neopronouns for children
Which
when
is
they're
like
explaining the Tarn, which is the lake out the front.
Yes.
Varn,
the lake
yeah. Oh, yeah, which technically is a very prevalent part. Our bad.
Madeline, at some point, before Alex gets there, falls into the lake and Roderick
She nearly
thinks
drowned.
she's drowned.
Yeah.
But he pulls her out and she's breathing again and he's like, oh, okay. And then from there, a lot of her problems start. And everybody is constantly like, that lake, it's a gross lake. Like bioluminescence in it at night sometimes that they sometimes notice nobody really talks about.
In order to prove it to the doctor and also to, well, I think Angus always kind of believed, I guess. Wasn't super like, oh, this is unbelievable. They bring a hair that had fallen partly in the lake. Angus mentions that when he had gone hunting, had seen this hare by the lake with its head half submerged and had thought it had drowned. And then they go to dissect it in order to check for mushrooms. They do find those mushrooms and then the hare comes back to life.
The hare comes back to life fully dissected.
Also, there is a really cool moment as well when they're speaking with Madeline and Madeline is chasing them, where they mention that when she opens her mouth, it's like spindly bits inside. And I was just like, that
comes out.
Visually looked fantastic. Like in my brain visuals.
In this, she's like, yeah, when I drowned, like the fungus got into my lungs and it filled them up and it's been keeping me alive. But then she like has to cough up and pull some of the fungus out of her mouth and she's like, it filled me up a little bit too much and sometimes it's a bit difficult. She's not explaining it to be funny, but it's so funny. The monster keeping me alive is doing a bit too good of a job. I love Madeline. She's great.
T. Kingfisher mentions that Edgar Allan Poe mentions fungi more than he mentions Madeline, which I then reread The Fall of the House of Usher. He mentions Madeline twice, when she kills Roderick and when she walks past a door, and also when she dies, I guess, but just kind of mentions, oh, she's dead. But he does go on a tirade about fungi, because Roderick in the Fall of the House of Usher mentions that he believes that mushrooms are sentient, which I think is really interesting that then T. Kingfisher expanded on that for an explanation as to what had happened, because it is the original story is very nondescript. It doesn't explain or hold your hand through it or anything like that. It's very vague.
Very short.
I was saying to Mel when, like for a visual, there are two here, little post-it marks. That is the story. It is just a very small amount of pages. It is a very, very short story. While I'm talking, Mel could have read that. And then to have the book be quite a bit larger, it's a lot to expand on. But I also feel that it gave it does it in a way that I think a lot of modern stories do, where they want to give an explanation. Like, I think we saw it a lot with a lot of people's disappointment with Frankenstein, the new movie, where they've done it also with previous retellings of Frankenstein as well, where they explain how the monster was made. And a lot of people think that's weird. And I don't know, I just think it's fun. Sounds like a fun time. Just explain the things that are happening. Doesn't have to always be vague. There's nice poetry and things in that kind of vagueness that invites questions and leaves an open-ended ending. But sometimes it's nice to just have an answer. So that ending.
Yeah, so there is actually another character in this book that we have touched on. It was the Tarn, which is the lake on the property. So the bioluminescence that I mentioned and like the fungus in it that have infected Madeline, the childlike voice is what has been living in the lake. She explains, she's like, it started off like possessing the hares. So it learnt like things about the world, and it was like, humans. I want to be a human. They've got like more that they can do. They can be more than like the hares can. But they're like, it learned how to walk from the hares. It learned how to like see. It possesses Madeline's maid, who at this point in time, she's dead. She didn't like being possessed by a lake, and she killed herself. But Madeline was teaching the Tarn through her maid how to speak. And I actually think it's really, really cute.
Cute.
I think it's cute.
Cute.
It's very much a monster. It's the monster in the book. It's killed Madeline. Madeline's not even mad about it. She's like, well, yeah, I was already sick, right? If I'd been a healthy person, we could have lived together and it would have been great. She's like, my maid, who I don't think gets a name, she's like, silly girl, didn't like it. And like her brother took her body away and burned her. She couldn't come back to me, even just like as the fungus. And she refers to it as the, which when they're earlier in the book and they're going through all the pronouns, the is the name that you use for a child, and they explain that sometimes siblings use it for their entire lives. Like it's affectionate.
Yes.
Right? She doesn't view this as a monster that's killed her and is ruining everything. And she begs Alex, she's like, now that I'm dead, now that it can't like preserve my bodily functions and keep me alive because it's been disconnected and it's just living really in my head while the rest of me dies. Awful. She's like, I need you to take it. I need you to take this and look after it and help it grow and protect it like you always protected me when we were children. And I think it's really cute. If you could raise the mushroom child to be a mushroom adult without killing the person that it's living in, I don't know, like an Animorph situation.
Yeah, but also, do you think that was Madeline?
Yes.
In the end,
no, yes,
that was Madeline.
I think there's a very clear distinction between the Tarn and Madeline. And Madeline genuinely does feel very affectionate towards this thing that has killed her, because it also saved her.
I think, personally, she was manipulated by the Tarn and had been overrun by the Tarn, and then therefore the things that she was doing in order to appeal to Alex was to manipulate them into saving the Tarn.
There is a line, I didn't highlight it and I regret it now. When she was younger, before they moved out here, when she was in Galatia, all she was a pretty doll for her mother to dress up and for men to look at. And she's moved out here and she's met this thing which needs her. And I don't think she'd ever been needed before. And I think that adds into it, like, another element of why she thinks of it kind of as a child that she never had and will never have because now she's dead. Like, she never had a purpose in life, and she's found this, and it is her purpose in life. And I don't think you're supposed to think about it this deeply.
I think it's nice.
But I feel bad about it.
that you think that. I had taken a lot of that as to mean that because in the original story, Madeline is basically ignored. She's not even a character. She is a plot piece. That it could have been anything that had been killed by Roderick. And it would have been the same ending, really. Because Madeline doesn't matter. The narrator in that story doesn't even really talk about any kind of relationship to Madeline, only talks about a very longing relationship with Roderick. So I had taken a lot of that to be a reinterpretation of how she's ignored by the original story, which I don't think that either of us are wrong in that interpretation at all. I think that's the joy of interpretation.
You mean to tell me that there's not a singular correct way to read and enjoy and interpret something?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh my God.
It is a very beautiful way to look at it. I just think that she was manipulating Alex.
I definitely
in order
think
to
there
save
was some
them.
manipulation
Like, to save the time.
involved. Definitely. I think it's more like she was desperate and using that manipulation to try and save something that she cared about, rather than
But
the fungus
that
was manipulating her to care about it. I do think that it was still her, and she did genuinely care.
Mm.
Because it doesn't seem like the fungus like could control her memories or anything.
Mm.
It's not like it could be in her brain being like, remember when we were children. It doesn't have access to that part of her. So it's still her.
Yeah, but...
And she's definitely been twisted by having the Tarn like live inside her. She didn't give a that her maid was dead. She's a little bit monstrous herself. But she is also still, you know, a person. But she...
But then, do you not find that interesting then that this narrative ignores Alice? Because Alice is not really brought up at all during the story. And is ignored and turned and thrown away.
Yeah.
Like, I
couldn't even
struggle
remember her
to
name,
think.
honestly.
Well, that's the thing, is that I didn't even recall seeing her name at all until it had popped up that she had died. And I feel like, and that could be incorrect. I could just be
No, you're right. But that's because Alex didn't know her name. Alex just knew
as the maid,
that she should have a maid. And he kept being like, tell your maid that you've been sleepwalking. Why is your maid letting you get up at night? She should be looking after you, because Alex doesn't know that the maid is dead.
It feels like she was ignored as well.
Yeah.
So then for her to be like, for Madeline to be all, I felt I was ignored, and basically to put on a pretty dress, her maid was ignored and meant to be a maid, and then just got literally thrown away once Madeline has been...
Done her explaining.
I was going to say dealt with, because that happens a little bit later, but locked in a room, again, really gets locked in a lot of rooms. The crypt, and then now the room that they're in.
Alex locks her in her room a couple of times as well when he finds her sleepwalking. Go away.
The way that the story rounds out is they mentioned that the only way that they've been able to deal with this is by fire, so they burn the house to the lake.
Roderick kills himself in this part as well. He goes back into the house and he makes sure that everything burns.
Yes.
Because they do... I don't think they really confirm it as much as they can't really confirm this other than really with an autopsy. But they think that Roderick is infected as well. He has the same really pale hair that Madeline has. And there's a discovery that Alex makes when they're talking with Miss Potter about mushroom psychosis. I don't know what it's called. It was a technical word, and I'm not a technical person. Can affect people in different ways. There are like different symptoms, even with the same, I guess, infection. And they go, oh, Roderick's got this too. Like, that explains the way that he's like been shaking, and the anxiety, and the way that he reacts to loud noises. And like, they're like, he's sick too. And they talk to Roderick about it, and he knows he's sick too. So when he's like, well, we're burning my sister and we're burning this house, I'm going to go back in. I'm not coming out. Love you all. I'm going to make sure this place goes down. And he just wanders back into the building. And
I do think it's interesting that he says that he wants to make sure it's burned, but he's going to go in there and burn
Well, because he's infected. He knows he's infected.
More, okay, I'm thinking about this more in a silly way, not in
Right,
a
okay.
fun way. Like, more in a,
I'll hear you out.
okay, oh, I'm going to make sure that the house burns, but then walks into the burning building and then is burned and goes, ugh. How does he know that the rest of the house burned?
Well, I assume that goes back to the part where he is like, really early in the book, he's like, I can't leave this place. And Alex kind of jokingly goes, just burn it down, get the insurance money and start over somewhere new. And Roderick goes, I know exactly where I would put the match to make this entire house burn. And the house burning down also doesn't destroy the lake. That happens after they get a whole bunch of sulfur and they fill it up and they kill the funguses inside of it. And the pretty glowy lights fade away into nothing. And they tell the townsfolk, including 2 servants that had lived in the house that didn't have a name until the very, very end. Their names are Mary and Aaron. They don't get names until like 2 chapters before the end. But they're like, Aaron, please ensure that any animals that are seen drinking at this lake anytime for a while until it dries up are shot, just in case they're filled with parasites. And Mary, actually, she reacts really, I didn't highlight it, I should have, reacts really weird. Here we go. This is before Roderick's gone back in. He goes, Roderick stood in his own swaying. He nodded to the 2 servants. Aaron, Mary, it's over. Please go to the village. I'll catch up to you when I can. Mary turned away, expressionless, while Aaron lingered. And it's like, is Mary infected too? They're talking to Aaron again later. They meet up with Aaron at the inn and they're saying, I don't remember which character says what, but they go, we're really worried that maybe we're infected too. You were up at the house, like you were living there as a servant. Denton's like, I was there for like 3 weeks. These 2, meaning like Alex and Angus, haven't been there for all that long. They might not be infected. All been drinking the water from the lake. And Aaron goes, you gotta be fucking kidding. Nobody drinks from that lake. There's a well under the house. Like, you haven't been drinking that.
But I did feel, because there's the moment where they were investigating the rabbit and they were also investigating Madeline's corpse. And also the fact that they had had an encounter with Madeline. Madeline was close enough to Alex when Alex gets pulled out of the room in order for them to see directly into Madeline's mouth. I had assumed airborne, you know, like there's not an absolute guarantee that they had never encountered anything. And I guess that's assuming that whatever is happening definitely is only by contact with the lake. You know, drinking the water and everything like that. Whereas they had obviously taken precautions to protect themselves when they were doing the dissection on the hair and also when they were doing the hair on the corpse also.
Too many different kinds of hair. It should have been a rabbit.
I just thought it was interesting that they didn't, like, you know, quarantine themselves for a week or something.
Yeah.
Just to make sure. And also, did the liver kill it?
That's true.
Apparently it was real nasty.
They were doing a lot of nasty alcohol drinking. There's a drink mentioned in this called Livet, which they specifically say is so gross. And the only reason that anybody drinks it is because it is a tradition in Galatia that widows make this liquor and people buy it to support the widows, even though they don't want to, because you don't want poor old ladies to starve. And it's a throwaway, but I also think that's very funny.
It is a little bit funny.
Like, could you not get the widows a different recipe so they're not all making something really disgusting? Because they're like, it's alcohol, and the alcohol would be fine, but for some reason we put like this really gross moss in it that makes it like really thick and syrupy and tastes really bad. Why don't you just not put the moss in it? It was a very Vegemite-like reaction as well.
Yeah.
Because, like I said earlier, the ushers and Alex are all from Galatia, and this is a Galatian drink. And Roderick and Alex are like, hey, Denton, try this drink, in much the same way that Australians are like, hey, friend, try our Vegemite.
But yeah, I did really enjoy the book. I thought it was really fun. The only thing that I did, if I was to be like, I would have liked to see more of, would be that I would have liked to see a bit more conflict between the characters. With such great character work, I would have really liked to see more conflict.
Alex shoots a hare because they want to like look at it, shoot it directly in the head, blows off half its head, and then the hare gets back up. And Alex has been telling this story to Denton and is like, yeah, I shot this rabbit, but I obviously didn't shoot it the way that I thought that I shot it. And Denton's like, maybe you did. And Alex is like, the dead don't walk. And Denton's like, okay.
Would have liked to see a little bit more of people kind of interacting with each other in a way that wasn't always just, oh, I have a conflicting thought. Oh, that's very curious.
We have
how
talked
nice.
through this and now we are in agreement.
Yes, but I still hate Americans, despite the fact this American seems to be all right. Is there anything that you wish was in the book?
I wish that Madeline had lived and had a little mushroom child to grow up with her, to teach things to.
Technically, she did have a mushroom child.
Yeah, but it was in a maid. They should have been able to make a mushroom person. The ending of my book is not a horror. It's
found family?
Yeah, it's like a cozy found family. And because there's not a lot of conflict in this story, she explains to them, this is my mushroom child. And they go, cool. And they fix up the gross moldy house. Or they move back to Galatia with their mushroom child.
True. I mean, I do also think it's not that there's no conflict. It's just, it's very
mild.
Very passive. Very, mild. Not passive. Yeah, mild is a better term for it.
Oh, no, I think passive is actually correct. Yeah. Because nobody gets, like, mad about the things that they're, like, in disagreement about. It really is. It's very passive. It's just like,
but yeah,
I disagree with you, but I'll think about the fact that I disagree with you in a different room.
It feels a little bit like the conversations that we have in a lot of stories as well. A Psalm for the Wild Bill. You read that book, right?
Yes.
Context for this book is essentially that a character enters like the wilds where there is a bunch of robots running around, and the robot essentially teaches that person that,
man, if it wasn't the 1800s, they could have put the mushroom in a robot. Wouldn't that have been great?
I think they've just, like, described that they need decaying tissue to
survive. Because they're a mushroom.
Yeah. Or at least near decaying. Or I think that was just a throwaway comment. But
flesh.
Yeah. Unfortunately, robots don't have flesh at this stage. But yeah, in that story, it's very inspirational. It's a really cute book. I just found it to be very like, oh, we have these two different opinions. Let us just sit and go, but I think this. Yes, let us agree about this point.
Do you think you feel that way? Because you and I, when we have disagreements, get really, like, quite loud and fake aggressive with each other.
No, because so a lot of the reason that I think that we have a lot more heated kind of conversations. I say heated very loosely. I love Mel dearly.
We're never actually mad at each other.
Never actually mad. It's more that I feel comfortable expressing myself in a way that I don't feel I have to mince words, right? Like, even this conversation right now, it is a little bit more amplified because you're here, and because that's generally how I speak to you. But I do, in many conversations where I don't agree with someone, will be quite mild and very, this is my opinion, change your mind, I guess.
I'm not going to fight you over this.
Pretty much. Yeah. Like, and I think that's a very realistic thing to happen when you were talking about, like, being a proper member of society or something like that. Like, you don't run around telling someone that they're wrong all the time when you're sitting at the dinner table with your family, for instance. I do, generally, but
I also do.
But there are times where you sit and you go, look, I'm not going to change their mind. I just need to deal with this conversation
and
as
get
best
through
I
the
can.
next hour and a half so I can go home.
Yeah. And that's, I feel like, was a lot of what's happening. But I feel like this situation should have forged them into a stronger relationship by having that conflict. But yeah, it would have been hard to do in that scenario because, do you have a big involved conversation like that with people that you barely know? Which I think maybe that's something that develops in What Feasts at Night in the next book.
I thought I saw very briefly online that Denton is in What Feasts at Night as well, but he's not in the blurb.
Oh. I think that would be really good.
Yeah, I was going to say, because I like the idea that they made friends.
Yeah.
Like, 'cause going into this book, they don't know each other at all. Alex and Denton have never, ever met. Their connection is both through the Ushers. Alex was a childhood friend of both of the Ushers and, like, served in the army with Roderick. And I don't think they explain exactly how Roderick and Denton know each other, but I think it might also be, like, a kind of army-ish connection. But Alex and Denton have never met each other before. And, like, they do forge this, like, almost friendship because Alex is still, like, American. And they've gone through this thing together that's really, really traumatic. And I like the idea that they are still friends and something good has come out of it.
Mm.
Is this good? Is this a part of me that I haven't realized is there, where I look at the horror novel and I constantly imagine some kind of happy ending? Like, I don't usually talk about the books that I read with anyone. Have I been my whole life writing alternative endings in my brain where things are happy? Because I want Alex and Denton to be friends.
Yeah, so if the next book deals with Miss Potter, and then
Right.
So the third book is Alex Easton does not want to visit America.
Because they don't like Americans, because American. But old friend, old friend,
Old friend.
old friend.
Old friend.
They're friends.
I think it's really good to read books that encourage you to think about it further, because that's fan fiction, right?
Is it just delusion of me, though?
No, I don't think it is. I think it's, you know, it's fun. You should write a fan fiction about Madeline's little mushroom child.
It would exist, and a whole 2 people would read it, because I would send it to you and I would hope that you would read it.
So who would be the second person? Me. Would that be you? Oh, okay. And then hopefully anyone who's watching this might also read the Mushroom Child fanfic.
I do have an AO3 account. We should both start writing horror novel fan fictions. Let's not do that.
Let's not do that. Yeah, that might be. That's
not going to be our niche.
So the next book that we will be reading, which will be in March, so prepare for that, will be Bunny by Mona Awad.
We call them bunnies because that's what they call each other. Seriously, bunny. Samantha Heather McKay is an outsider in her small, highly selective MFA program at Warren University. I can speak. In fact, she is utterly repelled by the rest of her fiction writing cohort, a clique of unbearably twee rich girls who call each other Bunny. But then the bunnies issue her with an invitation, and Samantha finds herself inexplicably drawn to their front door, across the threshold, and down the rabbit hole. Blending sharp satire with fairy tale horror, Bunny is a spellbinding trip of a novel from one of fiction's most original voices. I like that. That's cute.
Oh, that is fun. So next we're reading Bunny, and we'll be talking about it on March the 13th when the next session of Mellow the 13th will be out. So just to recap, my name is Megan. I am an artist and a writer, and this is Mel.
I am an artist and a librarian.
And we really like horror books, so that's why we created the Horror Book Club. A last thought as well, until this camera runs out, because I know it's going to be a bit of a sign, we're trying to work on how we want to show you what books that we want to read. We do want to go with some kind of reading tracker platform, so we want to hear from you. What kind of platform do you use to track your reading? Do you use one at all? Tell us all about it. Otherwise, you can follow us on TikTok, on Instagram, and also eventually on some kind of book platform when we work out what that is going to be. But for now, we appreciate your time. Thank you for being here, and see you on the 13th.
Wait, I just want to use the book on this to be like, ta-da, because she's going like, ta-da. That's not funny. Nobody thinks that's funny.
I don't get it.
No, she's going like,
oh,
ta-da!
I get it. Yeah.
Ta-da!
Ta-da! Which will only make sense if I put that on the screen.